motivation behind it. Why do we do it? Do we do it because we love him, or do we do it because we're checking boxes for him and trying to earn some kind of a privilege with him? Because then it just becomes currency. We're just paying off God so that we have a good day, right? And so we don't want to use those things as currency. We want to run to those things because of who he is, and for him to teach us who he is in those places. And when we do, and the dark seasons come, and we position ourselves before him as a yes in the valleys, we move into those places of maturity where we go from calling him master to calling him husband, friend. You know, Jesus told the disciples right before he left, he said, "No longer do I call you servants, but I call you friends." They had moved into maturity, and they were about to watch their best friend be crucified. And he spoke that to them. You know, it's in those places that we move into maturity, that we move into sonship, that we move into being the huios of God. This is actually a picture of the Valley of Achor. I found it was like, no wonder they called it that, you know, and it was like the Valley of Trouble. Well, now it's got an interstate running through it, but I'm sure it didn't back then. Camel interstate maybe. But that, you know, the valleys, we have these valleys, guys, and in every valley that you have, there's a door of hope. And he is the door of hope. I love the, you know, Psalm 23, when, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, you're with me. And you're not only with me, but you're preparing a table for me in the presence of my enemies. So he doesn't say, I'm going to move you away from your enemies. I'm going to move you away from trouble. I'm going to take you away from the valley of trouble. No, he says, when you're in the valley of the shadow of death, when you're in the valley of Achor, I'm going to provide for you there. I'm going to show you that my goodness exists in the valley. And the reason I felt like God wanted me to share this with you today, I know Brian Simmons, I heard him, he came to Nashville. He's the author of the Passion Translation of the Bible. And just an awesome, if you ever get to hear him speak, he's really amazing. And he came to Nashville recently, and he talked about suffering, and he said, if you haven't experienced suffering, you need to repent. And one of the things that he was saying is that we're all kind of going through some hard times, guys. I really believe that the church is going through a refining period right now. And you know, it was really neat as I've been praying for you guys, and God has just been taking my focus, you know, to you as I've been praying for all of this. He just kept taking it to you. And I feel like God was saying that every one of you in this place are teachers and prophets and apostles and pastors and evangelists. Every single one of you. Like, I felt like everybody that was going to be here today, you have a calling on your life. And God knows what it is. He knows what it is, and he's bringing you into the fullness of that. And the seasons are going to test you, the waves are going to come, the darkness is going to come, but we can let those things refine us. We can let those things move us into the reality of who we are. Because heaven already knows who you are. See, heaven already has a declaration over you and sees you as the you that would have been in the garden. But here's the other cool part of that. Okay, so if all things work together for good to those that love God, and then also Isaiah 61 says that when the enemy comes and steals that we get back double, and then in Proverbs it says we get back 7 times, right? Okay, so think, who would you be in the garden? Like, who would you be? Your personality, your design, your giftings, the calling on your life, your destiny. Well, how much has that been stolen from you? Now that cannot be stolen, but how much does it feel like that's been attacked? That things have happened, that messages have come that say something very different. Okay, so all of those things have happened, say from birth until now, right? From your conception where you were fully who you would have been in the garden, and then all these things happen up until now. Well, God says he uses all things together for good. So the person that you would be in the garden, you're actually even more than that now. You're actually even more than that because God restores. Because he gives back double and 7 times. So who you would be there, and you're thinking, golly, that would be, it would be so incredible to experience that. Well, you're more than even that because the enemy dared to steal from you, and so you get that back too. It's incredible, guys. You can't mess this thing up. You really can't. He is just a big yes from heaven over your life. All he needs from you is a yes back. And then he does everything. He does everything else. It's just incredible. He's so beautiful. We can't mess this up. You know, I've had a lot of valleys in my ministry and in life, and those 2 years were some of the most difficult I ever went through. And actually, Scott and I have been married 2 years, but the last 2 that we've walked through have been the 32 years. Sorry, I said that. We've been married 33 years. The last 2 have been the most difficult we've ever walked through, ever. And it's been by God's grace that he's just continued to steward this whole thing. Each time we say yes, he just steps in. He steps in and he has this thing. And it's beautiful. God is calling his beloved into union. And he's not doing that with suffering, because the seasons of suffering just come. They just happen. So he's not going, oh, I'm going to make you suffer to bring you into union. But it's a great place to discover him. He's beautiful on the mountaintop. But have you guys ever been spelunking? Have you ever gone into a cave? Or like even the Mammoth Cave or something like that. If you've ever gone on one, they have these little cave tours that you can go on where you walk in, and they do the same thing in every one of them pretty much. You get to this part of the cave, and they tell everybody to find a spot, and be really still, and then they turn off the lights. And all of a sudden, you literally cannot see your hand in front of your face. It's just, you can do this. It is the strangest thing. It's like, I can't even see a shadow, nothing. It is like there is zero light. And then they do the same thing typically. I've been to several of them. They light a little lighter. And all of a sudden, this entire room would light up with a little tiny flame in a cave, because the light is so much brighter in the darkness. Now, if I stand up on a mountaintop in the sunshine and I light a lighter, we'll be able to see it, but the sun has the whole thing. Everything is bright because of the sun. But when you're in that dark place and the sun steps in, he's radiant. He's beautiful there. He's absolutely radiant there. And he wants you to know him in that place, because, guys, it's in that place that we're tempted to be self-sufficient. And it's that place, nothing else is going to work except for Christ's sufficiency. Self-sufficiency will take you through the wilderness for 40 more years. It's time to become Christ sufficient. It's time for us to say, God, I can't do this anymore. When I was 16 years old, I made this decision, and at 16, God had to give me a picture, for me to really understand what it was. But I like the picture because it kind of helps give the picture. But at 16 years old, I was just sort of tired of trying to do my own life. It wasn't really working very well, and I'd met Jesus as a little girl at about 8 or 9 years old through a bus ministry, and because I wasn't raised in a Christian home. But I'd gotten to know him. This little bus ministry came to my house, and I got to go to church, and I fell in love with Jesus and asked him to come into my heart. Didn't really know much about what that meant, but as I got to be about 16 years old, I really missed kind of that young relationship. I used to climb up trees and talk to him when I was 9 years old and 10 years old, and I just missed him. So at 16, I just said, God, if you can do anything with this life, it is yours. It's yours. You can have it. And I had this picture of me getting out of the driver's seat of my car, walking around and getting in the passenger seat, and then Jesus getting in the driver's seat of my car. And y'all, that is a great picture for what he's calling us to. That's a big yes, because he's got the gas pedal, the brake, and the steering wheel. And we just get to sit and go along for the ride and let him determine the way that he has. And there will never be a greater path than what he has for you. You will never be more fulfilled than the place that he's calling you to. The place that he's calling you to, even if there's a lot of valleys to get to that place, is the most beautiful place of all. It's the most beautiful place of all because he's in it. You were created to live from love. Ephesians 4:11 through 13 says, and he gave some as apostles and some as prophets. And this is what I really felt like he was saying over you guys today. Some as evangelists and some as pastors and teachers, for the equipping of the saints for work of service, to the building up of the body of Christ, until we all attain to the unity of the faith and of the knowledge, and that's experiential knowledge, of the Son of God, to a mature man, to the measure of the stature which belongs to the fullness of Christ. And then, of course, I had to look it up in the Passion Translation. And so the Passion Translation, and this is just the end of it. This is just the verses 13 to the end. 12. But until we all attain oneness in the faith. Am I reading that? Oh, no, wait. These grace ministries will function. Because it's just saying, this one just said he appointed some with grace to be apostles, grace to be prophets, and so it's a little bit longer. But these grace ministries will function until we all attain oneness in the faith, until we all experience the fullness of what it means to know the Son of God, and finally we become one perfect man with the full dimensions of spiritual maturity and fully developed in the abundance of Christ. And the Greek in the verse 13 literally means until we have the full knowledge of the Son of God. And guys, the scriptures, they're not just sort of trying to pump you up. Paul's not trying to pump you up. Jesus is not trying to pump you up when he says, I want you to have the same love that I have with the Father. I want it in you. I want you to know and experience this love. He's not just saying it as a pipe dream, right? He's not. And Paul isn't either. And when he says that until we have the full knowledge of the Son of God, y'all, the full knowledge of the Son of God, I feel like my brain would explode. I mean, I don't even understand that, but he says it right here. Paul is writing this in the scriptures, until we attain the full knowledge of God. You know what that means? That it's possible. And let's keep moving towards it, and let's keep saying yes to it and letting him bring those things about into our lives. And because he is the one that's praying this. And Jesus actually prayed this too. And I love this. My favorite chapters in the entire Bible are John 14, 15, 16, and 17. And the reason is because Judas Iscariot had just taken off in like John 13, and Jesus has a few moments as he's walking from dinner, the Passover dinner, to the Garden of Gethsemane with his 11 closest friends. And there's 4 chapters that tell us what he said and did. It's pretty powerful, because I'm like, what would Jesus say in the last few hours? I think that's really important to know. And one of the things that he said is in this prayer. And Jesus prayed. And in John 17:20, and I want you to hear this before I read that right there. He said, I do not ask on behalf of these alone, but for those also who will believe in me through their word. That's you. So I want you to know that this prayer right here, he prayed for you. Because he said, Lord, I'm not just praying this for these 11 guys that are with me right now. I'm also praying it for all of those that are coming to know me through their word. So that's you. So I want you to listen to this prayer for you. And John 17, 22 through 26, the glory which you have given me, I have given to them, that they may be one just as we are one, I and them and you and me, that they may be perfected in unity, so that the world may know that you sent me and love them, even as you have loved me. Father, I desire that they also, whom you have given me, be with me where I am, so that they may see my glory, which you have given me, for you loved me before the foundation of the world. O righteous Father, although the world has not known you, yet I have known you, and these have known that you sent me. And I have made your name known to them, and I will make it known, so that the love which you loved me may be in them, and I in them. So Jesus is saying the love that exists between me and the Father is in you. It belongs to you. It can't be taken away from you. He desires that you know the experiential revelation of that love. That's his desire. And with that, can we have some of the worship team come back? And I want to take some time, guys. This is what I really felt like the Lord had today. I feel like every single one of you in here are either apostles, prophets, evangelists, pastors, or teachers. And the evangelist, the Aramaic word for evangelist there actually means preachers. Like they're just going out, telling people. They want everybody to know Jesus. They want them to know who he is. And you can be an evangelist that stands on a corner and preaches to a crowd, or you can be an evangelist that loves on that person at Starbucks that's giving you your coffee. There are many ways to evangelize, but if you have a heart for that person that you're across from to know Jesus, then that is evangelism. When you love them, when you acknowledge them, and acknowledge that they're in front of you and that they're important and that they're seen and they're valued, that is evangelism. And it's beautiful. Some as apostles, some of you guys are called to steward what's happening in heaven. You are called, your connection, you desire to connect to heaven and see it come to earth. And you desire to raise up sons and daughters to do the same. So some of you have that calling on your life. Some of you are prophets. You just see things black and white, but you also see things over people. And you can see things very clearly. Sometimes